Now, is Nigeria attempting to be strong abroad whilst remaining debilitatingly weak at home? Well, according to the assessment of my next guest, President Tinubu and his deputy Kashim Shettima hold the record of the most travelled presidency in Nigeria since 1999 in their first 100 days in office. The president's first trip abroad, according to the assessment, was to France for a global financing summit. Then he was off to the ECOWAS summit in Guinea-Bissau, then the AU meeting in Kenya, followed by the G20 summit in India, and of course the UN General Assembly in New York, and these exclude stopovers in Benin Republic, London, and the UAE. Meanwhile, Vice President Shettima has represented the president in Italy, Russia, and at the G77 summit in Cuba. So what's the point of this massive diplomatic shuttle, and what impact is it likely to have on life in Nigeria? What's the value of these global engagements and diplomatic shuttles? Well, my next guest has written an important article about this, which I would recommend you read. He is the author, columnist, and former member of the House of Representatives, Dr. Dakuku Peterside, who is a chieftain of the ruling APC party. And Dr. Peterside joins me now in the studio. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good evening.
What's the main point of your article, briefly, for those who may not have read it? I mean, I guess it's trying to assess the value of the president's recent global engagements.
All right, thank you very much. For the records, we did a review of foreign engagements by presidents of Nigeria from 1990 date, and came to the conclusion that if you compare the first 100 days of each presidency, the current presidency have made more foreign trips than the earlier office holders, of the presidency. And so, for us, the challenge is what could be the purpose? What is the outcome and the impact? We established the fact that there are two dominant schools of thought. The first posits that the president is gradually changing the focus of our foreign policy to an economic growth-led foreign policy. Some will call it economic diplomacy. And the justification for that is that if you want to grow your economy at a time of recession, you need to attract foreign capital. And there are many countries that use that model. In 1978, China opened up her economy and pursued economic growth-led foreign policy, attracted foreign capital, and was able to reposition the Chinese economy in 1978. And between 1978 and 1990, China's GDP grew by over 1,000%, and GDP per capita increased from the neighborhood of between $250 and $350 to over $10,000. China used that at some point. Japan also did. Japan at various times. In fact, Japan's foreign policy objective is woven around economic diplomacy.
Well, so it would have to be. They were limited in other areas.
They're limited in other areas. Yeah. They don't have resources. They don't have natural resources. They don't even have arable land for agriculture. They have a small space and all of that. So that's the pursuit of economic diplomacy by Japan. Now, but there's also another school of thought that says, yes, there's nothing wrong or nothing inherently wrong in economic diplomacy. However, you must put your home in order first. You must put in place those things for which, when you invite foreign investors, they're attracted to come and invest in your place. That includes infrastructure, some level of economic stability, political stability, and all the other necessary things you need to put in place before you embark on such foreign engagements with the objective of attracting foreign investors. So those two schools of thought. And our argument is that there's nothing inherently wrong in any of the schools of thought. So it's not a chicken and egg situation. So nobody says that you must necessarily put infrastructure in place before going for foreign capital. Both of them can be done simultaneously, provided there is some synchrony, some harmony, but again, you must have an economic agenda.
Right. But let me come in here, because I mean, you've explained it very well. I mean, wearing your sort of columnist author hat. Now I want you to wear your APC hat. On the one hand, as you said, there are those who believe that by strengthening international relations, the president is laying the foundation for economic regeneration. And on the other, there are those who believe that this frequency of travel, and you pointed that out in your article, is unacceptable, and that the focus should be on tackling domestic problems such as insecurity, as you said, crumbling infrastructure, bloated bureaucracy, inefficient institutions, strengthen the rule of law before you bring in foreign investors. I mean, a lot of people would say that the second bit makes sense, because in what circumstances, pray tell, are you going to ask me, if I'm overseas, to put my money in your country when, according to, I mean, we just heard from somebody, a Nigerian manufacturer, who says his rice mill is likely to go under because of soaring energy costs and a lack of electricity. We've seen the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria reporting that an average of 95 companies are shutting down every year in Nigeria, with GlaxoSmith, a global giant, being the latest, and a loss of thousands of jobs being recorded annually in the manufacturing sector alone. I mean, how is the government, the APC government, of which, I mean, you're a part of the APC, how are they planning to attract investors into that kind of environment? I mean, you're sitting there giving us those theories, very intelligent theories, but how in practice is that going to happen?
All right, thank you very much. I will refer you to my article on how we deindustrialized Nigeria. You need to look for it, read through it.
Well, obviously, we don't have the article here,
Right,
so,
okay,
so tell us
let
what
me
it's about.
Try and explain what I think is going on. There is nothing that says that government should stop the effort to attract foreign direct investment until it fixes all of these challenges at home. Both can be done simultaneously.
But yeah, but you use China as an example.
Absolutely.
The Chinese battened down the hatches, absolutely battened down the hatches and got their house in order before they then went. And once they opened up, the world simply swarmed in.
I don't think that's very correct. Now, recall that by 1978, when they embarked on the open and reform policy, there were still a lot of infrastructural challenges in China. Today, most of those infrastructural challenges have been fixed. China didn't shut down the attempt to attract foreign capital and foreign direct investment just to fix everything at home.
Yeah, but the Chinese,
it is not,
you're right, but the Chinese gave the world clear example, a clear focus, a clear sense of direction, a clear sense of political stability, a clear sense of an economic plan. You're telling us about these theories, which are very good theories, by the way, that you articulated in your article. But people would say that that is just pontification, to the extent that they haven't actually seen a well-articulated economic agenda that is being driven by the government in that dual direction that you're talking about.
Now, let me also draw your attention to the fact that when I say today, or let's say yesterday, we just have a new team at the central bank.
Yes.
Monetary policy
is key.
It's an important component
Absolutely.
of whatever economic plan government will put in place. Now, we have a finance minister and coordinating minister for the economy, and I'm sure it's less than 1 or 2 months old on the seat. financial, fiscal policy is another critical element
Absolutely.
of an economic agenda. Now that we have the two key actors in place, my ordinary expectation is that government will soon roll out an economic agenda that will drive every other process, whether the pursuit of foreign direct investment, the engagements government will hold. But, so I think we should be patient and urge government to roll out her economic agenda. That's clearly, and whether articulating an economic agenda is the way to go, it's a no-brainer. It is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I keep giving this example. If I want to leave Abuja to Lokoja and I have no plan, I have no map, I will miss my way. So without an economic agenda, government is most likely to miss her way. So I totally agree that that's the path to go. And I haven't put the critical building blocks in place. The next logical step is to roll out an economic agenda, and I believe that government will roll out an economic agenda.
Right, but the very title of your article suggests that you yourself are not convinced yet, as an APC member, that the government is making the right domestic moves. I mean, your article is titled "Strong Abroad, Weak at Home."
All right, now the genesis of the article is that first there's a question mark at the end of the title. There's a perception by a number of Nigerians that good, we are making the right moves at the international level, international scene. But then there are things that need to be fixed at home. And that if those things are fixed, we will both strong outside the country or strong abroad and strong at home, which is the dream and aspiration of every Nigerian, of every patriotic Nigerian. It's not the same thing as saying that our government has abdicated her domestic responsibilities. I believe that government is conscious. Government is alive to her domestic responsibilities. Are they fixing at a pace that is satisfactory to all of us? The answer is no. Have they identified that there are challenges? Absolutely. I'm sure nobody is satisfied with the galloping rate of inflation. Our currency is losing its value. There's confidence crisis in the economy. These are realities. Cost of living has hit the top. Outside, government is reviewing wages. So government actually has identified that there are problems. The issue of insecurity will not go away with a wave of hand. It's been there over the years. Educational outcomes will not improve overnight. It means that the foundational issues must be tackled. Whereas I'm not spokesman for government, but I believe that it is too early to conclude that government has lost its way in the marketplace.
Nobody's saying they've lost their way. We just want you to bring some clarity. And the fact that you've got an inside track because you are an APC chieftain. I mean, you've occupied very senior positions in government in this country. You were a member of the House of Representatives, and you're a chieftain of the APC. But I have to say that I think you made a very good point when you said that the government must remember that in its quest to attract investment, Nigeria is in competition with other emerging economies in Africa.
Absolutely.
And therefore, money will simply go elsewhere if the country doesn't show seriousness.
Money will go where there's less risk, where there's better return on investment, and where it's safe. And I think government recognizes that. That is why there is some sort of rejigging of our economic system. I don't believe that it has fully unfolded. And my ordinary expectation is that in the next few weeks and months, government will unfold her full economic plan.
Right. And that will be added to all the other economic plans that we've had.
They've rolled out a number of policies. They've rolled out, of course, the subsidy is gone. There's an attempt to harmonize exchange rate. Now, companies can repatriate their profit. There are a few policy statements government has made that may be cheering, but however, it has adverse short-term impact. And in rolling out policies, we must also look at the short, medium, and long-term impact. and the areas we need to mitigate. Policies can't be static. It must be dynamic.
Absolutely. And practical.
And practical. And ultimately, the reason why we put policies in place is for the well-being of the people. Where it affects the people adversely, we must mitigate it.
So in that respect, do you think the strike that is being threatened by the labor movement is justified?
Oh yes, government acknowledges that there's been some adverse impact of her recent policies, and that's why it's engaging with labor. Government has said, listen, we're going to review wages and make living wages. Oh, providing palliatives in the area of transportation, in the area of availability of food. Government acknowledges that there are challenges, and that steps must be taken to mitigate the adverse impact of the recent, I don't want to say structural changes, policy interventions of government. They acknowledge that. And you must give them that credit.
Yeah, well, acknowledging it is quite different from doing anything about it. When people are simply sitting there, and I mean, the labor movement is threatening a crippling nationwide strike, which will deepen
But you're aware that there's
the economic
engagement going on.
Well, I mean, they've been engaging, but so far the engagement hasn't worked, which is why they said they're going to go on strike.
We don't know the outcome of the engagement so far.
Well,
maybe labor is not satisfied with what government is offering.
Well, we shall watch that space very closely.
Absolutely.
But as I said, I would strongly recommend your article. I mean, I always find most of your articles very engaging, although they're all very theoretical.
Not quite. Not quite.
I mean, but they're theoretical because I sometimes have difficulty finding not merit in your suggestions and in your analysis, but finding application of that within the country's society, this society. And I would have hoped that they would take up, I mean, you're a member of their party, that they'd pick up on what you're saying.
Yeah, well, you can't say, I can say this to you, that sometimes it takes a bit of time for government intervention in any sector to begin to deliver results. To be felt.
Okay, well, we shall watch and see. Dr. Dakuku Peterside is an author, columnist, former member of the House of Representatives, and a chieftain of the ruling APC party. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles.